Welcome to the first video on how to make your CO2 car body. What we're going to do is open up Pro Desktop 8.0. And you should have already watched the intro video or had paid attention when Mr. Manning was going over what Pro is capable of in class. So there's a little tip window I'm going to close and just maximize Pro D. You get a blank screen. I'm going to go to File, New, and I want a new design file. We'll do an engineering drawing at the end. So a new design file. And I'm just going to maximize this out. You may have a palette to the right hand side. You can go ahead and close that. You don't need that up. And right away you start with what's called a base work plane. So I'm going to tilt that. I'm clicking the middle mouse ball and you can see it's flat. It's two-dimensional. I can hit Shift W to look flat. I can hit Shift I to look at what's called an isometric view, or basically 3D view. But we don't want to draw on this. We want to draw on the frontal work plane. So I'm going to click on the front, and you'll see multiple work planes come up. Those are your 3 dimensions. And I'm going to right click on frontal, make a new sketch, and call it profile. So this is going to be the side view of our car. We're going to draw it on the side. Think of this as drawing it on a wall, putting a piece of paper, taping it to a wall, and drawing instead of taping it or placing it on a table. I'm going to hit Shift W. That stands for work plane view, so I'm going to snap right to a flat work plane. I'm going to go over to my right hand side and grab the rectangle tool. I'm just going to drag a rectangle outside of the green box. I'm just doing this for illustration purposes to show you that the green box is the extent of your drawing, of your design. You do not have to stay within its boundaries. Then you should already have your sheet done with your measurements on it. So you have all the data and measurements for a standard block, and we're going to transfer that to Pro D. I didn't draw this to size or anything. I'm going to use the dimension tool. It's in the upper menu bar. It's got 2 little arrows and 2 X's pointing down. And I'm just going to click on this bottom line, and then I'm going to click and drag a dimension out. It says 14.8. Is that inches, millimeters? We don't know. To check it, we'll go to Tools, go to Options, and Units. You want to make sure both of these are set to inches, and then just hit OK. We should know that our car body is 12 inches, so I'm just going to triple click on the dimension. A menu comes up, and I'll hit OK at 12. We should know that the height of the car is 2 3/4 inches. So we have 3.3. I'll double click on that again. 3/4 of an inch transfers over 2.75, so it's 2.75 for the height. And we'll hit OK. And now we have the parameters that the car body will fit into. Well, we need to put a slope on. We need to put a slight slope on. And this is where it gets a little tricky. So I'm going to click the tool down here. It's the bottom one, and it's Trim tool. And I'm going to actually trim out the 2 lines that we did not dimension. I'm going to trim out the 2 lines that we did not dimension. And I'm going to show you another way to dimension on the fly. This front end is only 3/4 of an inch high. So if I go down to my corner and hold down Shift with the line tool, I can draw it up. And you can see that there's a little counter there. I'm holding Shift to keep it straight. So hold down Shift, and I can stop at 7.5. You may need to zoom in for it to be for the increments to get smaller. So if I'm really far zoomed out, the increments might just go 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. And then I can just play connect the dots from this endpoint to this endpoint, and we have a CO2 car profile. The last step is extruding this. So we've dealt in 2 dimensions, kind of like X, Y, if you will, or height and length. I'm going to tilt it. I'm going to kind of tilt it on an angle a little bit just by holding the middle mouse button, and I'm going to slide it back. Now we're going to go into the 3rd dimension, and we're going to create what's called a feature. So anytime you take a 2D sketch and create a 3D object out of it, it's called a feature. The most common one we'll use is called an extrude or extrusion. The top one, extrude profile. A profile is a valid 2D shape, so I can take this shape, which has a complete boundary around it, and extrude it. And that distance is 1 5/8. So we're going to type in that distance 1 5/8. I don't know 5/8 as a decimal off the top of my head, so I'm going to go over to calculator. You guys can handle doing this too. 5 divided by 8, it's that simple. 0.625. So it's 1.625, and I'm going to go below work plane. I'm going to send it back instead of going front. And make sure you have add material down, and go ahead and click OK. Now we have the start of your CO2 car. And that is the end of the first video.